So welcome everyone. I think I know most everyone that's here, but it's always good to have new people joining us. I'm Jerica Walsh. I'm Director of Art and Public Places for the Oklahoma Arts Council. And we are happy to have you all here in this meeting of the Oklahoma Public Art Network. Joining us this month is Courtney Brooks, who is based in Atlanta. And I learned about her work as the 2019-2020 Curator in Residence for the Atlanta Beltline. And so she's going to be sharing about that project, but also about her practice in general. And we are excited to hear from her. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to her. Let me start sharing the slides. Let's see. Showing like a weird exclamation point. So I don't know if this is working.
That's what I was saying. There was a weird exclamation point.
Record contents. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to, well, let's see. I'm gonna have to quit Zoom. I may have to like assign this and then come right back in.
So, hey, Jerica.
Yeah.
So you're wanting Courtney to be able to share her screen?
No, I'm gonna share her slides and it's something happening to settings.
I'm sorry.
So I'm just gonna assign a host and then I'll be right back. Don't start without me.
Okay.
Okay. I'll try this again. Okay, is that working?
Yes.
Okay. All right, well, I am going to mute myself and turn it over to you, Courtney, and just, tell me when to advance and if you need anything.
Okay. Well, greetings, everyone. How are y'all feeling today on a Monday? I don't know if I can hear. Okay, maybe everyone else is muted. So
Good,
oh, cool. Hey, I saw the thumbs up. I'm like, hey, it's like earphones working. Yeah, I just realized everyone's speaking. But I appreciate you guys being here. Hope y'all are enjoying this extra hour with the time. So like Jerica said, my name is Courtney Brooks. I am based in Atlanta. I'm a visual artist, an independent curator, and founder of the Journey of a Black Girl, which was born out of my residency with the Atlanta Beltline. And I am the first curator in residence that opened up in 2019 and 2020. And Jerica, you can start the slides if you like. And so I'm originally from Denver, Colorado. I went to school my freshman year at Texas Southern University in Houston, Texas. And then 2004, I moved to Atlanta. I finished up school at American Intercontinental University. I received my digital degree and my bachelor's in fine arts. And so I've always been an artsy girl. And my love for curating came because I am an artist. So just working throughout college, I had jobs where I was a manager, bartender, and I was able to start showing my own artwork. And that's how I started curating my own shows and then submitting my work to other exhibitions and logo places. And yeah, so Journey of Black Girl, this is my logo, this is my movement, this is my brand, and I'm so happy to share it with you. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so again, so Journey of a Black Girl is a public art exhibition. It's a curatorial narrative that visually shares experiences from Black adolescence to Black womanhood from a creator's point of view. As an artist and the inaugural curator, I'm holding space for culturally relevant and reflective activations that hold space to influence identity, sisterhood, and self-love. It has been a privilege to hold the title as the inaugural curator in residence for the Art of Atlanta Beltline's Public Art Residency. And as I said, celebrate my identity as a Black female culture maker throughout my artistic and curatorial practice. Move to the next slide. Again, so Journey of a Black Girl, just to sum it up, there's no space or time that can define the Black woman. Right here is one of my models and artists that was a part of the exhibition. She's actually wearing one of my merch t-shirts. So that kind of came along after my residency ended because I wanted to keep the movement going. And so her name is Maya. She's a writer and musical artist, college student at Georgia State. You know, the next slide. So what is the Atlanta Beltline? So Atlanta Beltline is known for its walkway that wraps around the city of Atlanta. Is a unique and ambitious public art that aims to connect 45 neighborhoods in the city of Atlanta through trails, transit, green space, and economic development. It's 33 miles long, and it's a place where a lot of artists are able to display their work. Over about 1 to 2 million people visit a year. So from walking, jogging, biking, they aim to have affordable housing, but honestly, with gentrification, I haven't seen it happen yet because a lot of the housing prices are going up. If you're along the Beltline, a lot of condos are being built. There's a lot of restaurants, so it's a thriving space for small businesses and for artists to be able to put their work out. Unfortunately, still kind of waiting for the affordable housing to come around. We can go to the next slide. So when I began Journey of a Black Girl, I was a part of the South Side Trail. I remember doing a proposal for the curator in residence. So they had, you can be an artist in residence or you can be a curator in residence. And because I'm both, I felt that my proposal was stronger for my portfolio for curating. And so when I applied, I wasn't, I was confident, but I didn't really know because I kind of waited to the last minute to fill out the proposal. Last minute, it was due at like 5 p.m. I think I got it in at like 4:50, and the files wouldn't upload. So I was like nervous, like, oh no, I don't know if I got it. So I just made sure I uploaded the files in email. And that was maybe like April of 2019. In July, I found out that I received it. And so super ecstatic. And it started October of 2019 through March of 2020, right? Was going to be the opening activation. And so, of course, we all know COVID happened. And literally the day of my opening, I had to cancel everything. It was 3 phases of art installations that I had to cancel. But what you're looking at right here was one of my first programs that I did, which was called Hair Day. It was a community-based braiding project, and I invited women to come out of all ages and groups. And it was 3 different locations, and we created these 15-foot long braids out of yarn. So it took about 3 women per braid to create these braids. And so it was just a space to have conversation, panel talks about sisterhood, Black hair, and it was also interactive because it actually helped braid the fiber art that went onto the Beltline. So with that, it was just, I wanted people to feel like they had a part and their hand was actually on the public art that was going to be showing. So it was important for me when the art went up, that when the guests came to see and the women that was a part of the project could look up and say, hey, I played a part in that. I helped create that. You can go to the next slide. So this was a couple of the spaces right here to the left of the screen. Is myself with one of the braids wrapped around my head. This was at an actual hair salon where we had conversation about hair. And then to the right is a lot of the women that helped braid these braids. So these are all yarn, multiple colors, because we Black women like to put different colors in our hair when we have braids. And so I wanted to represent that. Let's go to the next slide. So yeah, these are both 2 different locations, but putting them together, as you can see, they're about 15 foot long. I want to say it took about 7 rolls of yarn to create 1 braid. And some of them were thick and some of them were thin. It depends on how tight the braids were being, how they were executed. So my plan was to use cans for the beading and bracelets. So there was bangles and cans and styrofoam that we painted. So you can see some of them with the beads at the end on the left side. And so the name of this project was called This Crowd Belongs to Us. So for further reference, I put into the chat room the actual link to see the short documentary based on the third phase. And so on the South Side Trail, there was 3 areas that I focused on. Now, the one right here with the tunnel is where we filmed some of the documentary. And then over to the right is the actual braids that hung from a bridge. And so I wanted them to hang at different lengths, and they blew in the wind. They hung up for maybe about 6 months. They lasted outside. And so I used like a chicken wire, like fence to like zip tie the braids. And we just kind of threw it over and had it hanging for that duration of the time. Let me go to the next page. So just a closer look, you can see under the underpass on the trail. So the South Side Trail where I was located was still under development. They haven't paved the ground, so it was real organic. So it's still dirt. It was like an old train track they used to cover up. And so that area was being developed. And so when I go visit it now, there's new like high rises and condos being built over there. So when I first had it, it was very raw. With the public art, because it's out, you don't know who your audience is going to be. Anybody can walk up and see it. There was a time where one of the residents contacted one of the coordinators of the Beltline, and someone took one of the braids off. So, you never know. So there's some vandalism that happened, but overall it lasted, again, like I said, about 6 months. Let me go to the next slide. So again, the same space. So with phase 1, with this journey of a Black girl, I wanted to focus on the different age groups, right? So we had from adolescence, and then it transitioned to womanhood. So right here, the little girls, these were just creative friends of mine and their daughters that participated into the first part of the phase. And so they were there to film and have photos taken of them. And we had like maybe a 5-minute documentary on why they love their hair. And so it's just important to have, bring high self-esteem to these little Black girls and just let them know that their hair is beautiful and to embrace the way they look. So, and just be confident with their identity. And so that was a part of that day. And over here, her name is Gabby. She was another musical artist, another college student. And we also recorded live music on the Beltline. Now, again, this was supposed to be in person, but again, because of the quarantine, we weren't able to do it. But throughout that time, it was canceled in March. Around June, I got the call to say, we want to pivot, we're going to do it virtually. And luckily, everyone was still supportive and wanted to be a part of the process. And so we actually went and just filmed on separate days. And she was one of the artists that performed original music. I'm sorry. And also you can see this on my Facebook page on Seabrook's Art. I have all these recorded, so you can see the different videos as well. You can go to the next. Again, another artist that I explained earlier, her name is Maya. She stands in front of the clubhouse that I call my Homegirls Clubhouse, which was created to be a safe space. And it was supposed to be like a pop-up art gallery again, because it didn't happen in person. So I invited an artist, a Haitian American artist by the name of Usley. She came and painted the whole clubhouse. And so the inside, this was like an old electrical house. It was really disgusting when we first got to it. So we had to clean it out, spray wash it down, clean everything out. And so you'll see it on the next slide, but it's a little girl spray painting. It says "Girls with Dreams," and then the other side it's going to have a message. So this is one of the photo images from the live performance day. So this is the artist. So the artwork was being vandalized. We probably went out there about 2 or 3 times to repair the wall. Again, this was happening around, this happened, oh, so the art went up in March. So around April, May, you know, people were going and vandalizing, spray painting the work, and she was able to come and repair it. And so this is the color version. And this is the other side. So girls with vision become women. I'm sorry, girls with dreams become women with vision. So this was the clubhouse. And again, I didn't get the photos of the inside because we didn't get to utilize that part, but the outside was just a great selfie photo op for guests who were running the belt line or walking the belt line to just take pictures in front of. Again, this is some images of the little girls from the day of the hair documentary. So these were the original flyers. I designed all the flyers for the programming. I added the mask because before they didn't have the mask. So I added the mask on to be relevant with the times. This was an image that I found on an Instagram. I reached out to the lady who posted it. This was her mom and her aunts when they were younger. I want to say it was in Harlem. And it just spoke to me because the journey of a Black girl represents Black women and similarities that we go through growing up. And so this reminded me of my cousins growing up in these same poses. It doesn't matter what generation, we're doing these poses in these pictures. So I really fell in love with this image. And so I decided to use it as my main flyer. And so Journey of Black Girl, the logo has enhanced throughout the process. And so the opening original date was March, but when we did the virtual exhibition, it was 3 different phases, which was going to be the 14th, 16th, and 18th. Again, the 14th was the live music performances and the reveal of the braids. And the second, which was the 16th, was the second phase with This Crown Belongs to Us that transitioned into womanhood. And so you'll see to the right, This Crown Belongs to Us artist top. That's myself, and then 2 of the artists, photography and visual artists, Melissa Alexander and Angela Davis Johnson. We actually traveled to New Orleans during the pandemic because, again, they wanted to continue the process. And so they created this dynamic movie, short film that I was speaking of earlier when I put the link so you can watch it. So Angela was in New Orleans, and so we drove down there to finish this part of the film. And so this part was based on sisterhood, healing your trauma, and just giving thanks to the ancestors. So we went out there to perform this musical dance piece. I wasn't originally supposed to be a part of it, and I happened to have a white dress, and it's like, Courtney, I have a vision, come and be a part of the film. So this was one of the photos that we've taken, and again, this was just a promo for the artist talk for us to talk about the short film. So that's the next page. So again, this was the original photo, and this was at the lake in New Orleans. And so I helped direct, I helped film. And so I've been wearing multiple hats as an artist and curator, and now I was into directing part of the film. And so it was a beautiful day. Again, there's a lot of footage from that, and I can't wait for y'all to see it and get your feedback. So yeah, so again, like I said, we traveled to New Orleans to film these particular scenes. And then when we came back to Atlanta, we actually filmed on the Beltline, which was that photo earlier where I told you the circular tunnel. We had a poet by the name of Teresa the Songbird perform her famous piece about being Black. And so she had a piece on there that she performed, and it was just a beautiful thing. So that was the second phase of Journey of the Black Girl. Let's go to the next slide. All right, so I wanted to create a fashion merch for Journey of a Black Girl. So again, just focusing on the logo brand. I wanted to have young girls, babies, women, older women to be able to wear this. I also have like coffee mugs and just random other apparel. So prior to getting to this point, the third phase of Journey of Black Girl was supposed to end with another mural and a block party with 3 Black designers that specialize in thrifting. And so we would have had like a pop-up thrift market, and they would have styled different women to come out. So again, because that it wasn't able to happen, We ended up having an online fashion show via Zoom. So women were able to log in. We talked about how Black women never go out of style and just had different outfits. And so the designers came and showed their outfits and kind of walked the runway on their Zoom programming. And so it was like an online fashion party that we had since we couldn't have it in person. Unfortunately, the mural didn't take place because I was bringing an artist from Denver because I was just touching back to my roots and I wanted to pay homage to an artist in Denver that does beautiful murals of Black people all the time. Growing up, I didn't see that. I didn't know about murals. I didn't know Black artists growing up in Denver. And so it was important to bring him out to Atlanta to be a part of this project. And again, because that didn't happen, I wasn't able to. And luckily, everything happens for a reason because that building that we have permission to use was torn down literally like probably about 5 months ago. So I would have been devastated if he would have came out to do a mural and it was torn down. So that didn't happen, but this happened. And so I'm happy to share Journey of a Black Girl in another, in another light, and that can live on. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, so this is more of just the merch that I came up with. And now that it's sweater weather, I'm gonna get it out, the tongue twist, or hoodies, it's getting colder, so I'll have new merch and color schemes coming out soon. There you go, to the next slide. All right, so that was Journey of a Black Girl. Journey of a Black Girl is an ongoing movement, but a little bit more about myself, Courtney Brooks, C. Brooks Art. I curate multiple events throughout Atlanta. I started curating in 2017, and throughout there, I started off with doing pop-up shows just on my own, and then starting to be recognized from galleries. I was able to participate as a gallery director for the Art Exchange. And in the top of this year, just fast forwarding 5 years later into 2021, coming in post-pandemic, this was my first show called Hidden Truths. And it was a group exhibition exploring shadow work. I had 14 artists, actually 17, because I actually had 18, because I had filmmakers come in to show screenings of their short films. And shadow work, we just dove into our mental health. Like, what did it take for us to continue creating during this pandemic and during quarantine? A lot of people were by themselves. A lot of people had spouses and children to take care and homeschooling. And I wanted to dive into how did you keep your creativity and what you're going through during that time process that you normally might have not have shared with people. And so Hidden Truths was kind of just diving into that. And it was a beautiful show. Again, like I said, 4 filmmakers that showed their work. Melissa Alexander, again, she had worked with me with Journey of a Black Girl in one of her films. And you can actually switch to the next slide. So her film over here is at the space called Peter Street Station, which is a hidden gallery. And she did a film, and her hidden truth was that she was going deaf in her ear. And so as a 35-year-old woman, it runs in her family. And the older you get, some of her mother will start you losing her hearing, and it happened to her grandmother as well. And so she wanted to express as a photographer that she loved to bring out Black joy and show her subjects in a great manner. But sometimes she couldn't hear. So she always had to, ask you to repeat yourself, or she's reading lips, and she never, told anyone besides like her close family and friends. But this was her first time actually coming out in public to say that she was losing her hearing. And as a photographer, how that affected her creativity and her creative process. And so, so that was part of her film. It's just some of the images over here from the gallery. So the picture right here with the gentleman with the blue, that was a picture of himself dealing with his relationship with his biological father. So he said that, during the time of quarantine, he had really a chance to kind of figure out how to create this relationship with his biological father, and how he, compared that to him being a father himself. So it was a very emotional. This was probably the most emotional show that I've ever curated. The picture next to that was from an artist named Mirage. And this subject matter was of her cousin who deals with bipolar, a disorder. And so she wanted to express that image. The one that's in the photography piece that's on the wall, his name is Anthony Truth Gary. And him as a photographer, he was talking about how he was dealing with his own mental health and depression and how he lost his mom the year before. And so going through quarantine without his mother, like what he was going through. And so he took a self-portrait of himself that was kind of blurry with different facial expressions that he just captured and just kind of made like an abstract piece. And then the picture in the back, that's kind of like the purplish monochromatic tone. Her name is Bree, and she wanted to talk about the demons that she faced. It's like a little girl that kind of looks like this demonic face, but it was her that was kind of like her shadow and not feeling good enough and having imposter syndrome. So it was these very deep topics that each artist kind of dove into, whether it was themselves or someone they cared about. So those are some of the images from the Hidden Tropes show. All right, so this is some of the work that I have done. I also do murals. And so last year during the election, I was commissioned to do a vote mural. And I wanted to just express that you should believe in yourself, right? And I mixed a couple of my styles with the swirls, and this is all done in spray paint. So that's one of the murals I did for the voting. And then to the right, A Reflection of Change is also a project that happened on the Beltline. I wasn't commissioned through the Beltline, but a property company that has a fence that separates the Beltline from the construction site where they're building these condos and workspaces and high rises, right? And so this was in front of the Black Lives Matter mural that was painted on the Beltline. And so this fence before was just these 8-foot high or 8-foot tall, like wooden panels that people spray paint, just random images, their feelings. Some of it was, profanity. Some of it wasn't good vibes. Some of it was hashtag say their name, hashtag George Floyd. So it was a really heavy wall, right? So I didn't want to take away the voices of, the regular people who use that as a soundboard to say how they felt. However, we didn't want to keep promoting trauma. And so this was just the title that I painted, A Reflection of Change. And I incorporated the clouds to kind of give just like hope and just like an airy feel, right? And at the end, you'll see like an Instagram page where you can go check out all the other murals. So I was able to curate about 7 different artists to come out and say how they feel, what their reflection of change would be, because there's so many people that walk that Beltline, so many different ages and children. And it was important to show something that was, a little bit more light, but still shed light on the situation, but what is a positive reaction that can come from it? So that was the Reflection of Change project. You can go to the next slide. This is another mural project I did in the West End of Atlanta, which is a predominantly Black neighborhood in Atlanta. And this was on the owner of this building. They own a daycare right behind it. And so this is right across from the MARTA train station. And again, I'm always thinking about the future generation, and I want children to see positive images of themselves. And so this was part of a project called Goddess Glow, where about 5 different Black women artists were able to do walls. I was able to find walls for all these women artists to create murals under a partnership with Powerhouse Creatives. And so it was called Goddess Glow. So we was focused on just Black women energy. And so this was my mural, and it's called We Are Magical. Shine on them, which is on the other side of the little boy. So I probably had about 5 or 6 volunteers that kind of helped me get it going. But other than that, it's all spray paint on top. The background is just regular exterior paint, but it's, a little boy and a little girl just kind of playing a hand game, but the magic they can come with their imagination, right? So just the universe and all this magical stuff that can happen as a child that we all have in us. So I just wanted to create that. So it looks really cool from like, if you're riding the train, you can see it going past. So that was like one of the murals I've also created in Atlanta. I think that's the next slide. So on Juneteenth, I'm from Denver. We've been celebrating Juneteenth since I was little. When I lived in Houston, Juneteenth is huge because of just the origin of Juneteenth, knowing that in Texas, the slaves were the last to know that they were actually free after the Emancipation Proclamation. So Atlanta, you know, some people, we've been celebrating it, but now that it's been a national holiday now, I was able to come, I was invited to curate a Juneteenth immersive art day, which we had 4 artists that came out to show their work in on a digital art experience. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Van Gogh immersive art, where it's like all this art that's on projectors and it's all around the room. So this Black-owned space, event space called Ali Events, they normally are known for weddings and other events, but he wanted to pay homage to Juneteenth, and so we invited 4 different artists out. I got a band, a DJ, and so these are the flyers that I created and some of the artwork, and the main flyer, some of the artists. So all their work was projected throughout the room. You can able to buy art. It was just a great celebration for Juneteenth of 2021. And so again, back to my art. This was, I had art residency at Mint Gallery. And so some of this is just different styles of art that I have created over the years. I sometimes play around with abstract. I do portraiture and just different line work. The little girl up to the right on the wall, she was a photo inference that I took of when I went to visit Haiti. So she was one of the children at the orphanage that I worked with. And so I took a photo of her and I used that as an image to paint later. And some of these other work, it's just different styles throughout the years. And so at the residency, I was able to kind of showcase my work throughout my journey as a Black girl. And so again, like Journey with Black Girl is like this ongoing movement. And so when I bring it back to myself, I am a Journey with Black Girl because I've been doing this work and I serve. And so I just kind of tie it all together. And so I just want to create work that represents us and that people can relate to. Over to the right, support is a verb. This was my very first large scale mural that I did for the Village Market, which is a Black entrepreneurial space that brings out Black business owners to vend their work. And so this was like one of their annual events. And I was able to paint a mural. And so their slogan is a support is a verb. And again, I'm still always painting Black women. And I just wanted to show another Black woman in a hijab just because I just want to represent and be inclusive of all different journeys of Black girls. So again, the journey of a Black girl has been a part of my movement since day one. It's just, I just finally gave a name to it. So yeah, that was one of my first murals. And then this is the latest work that I have. You can go to the next one. And then this is the last thing that I've painted, which was a self-portrait, which was a part of a show called Reclamation. And it's reclaiming ourselves. And I haven't painted a self-portrait before. And I wanted to just challenge myself to do that and actually dig into oil as well, because normally I do acrylic. And so this was probably my second oil painting. And I told myself I wasn't going to paint anybody else until I painted myself. So this is my last painting that I have created. And I just finished it. The opening date was October 26th, or 24th. So yeah, so about 2 weeks ago, this was the last painting that I created. And it was a picture of me, and the journey continues. So that is myself. I'm proud of it, and I'm excited to see what comes next. And so I appreciate y'all coming and viewing this. I hope I didn't speak too fast, but I'm open for questions and comments. If you want to follow me, this is all of my social media: Journey with Black Girl, Seabrooks Art, a Reflection of Change. You can use the hashtag Courtney the Curator to see all the other events that I've curated. Website, I didn't put that on there, but seabrookstart.com, or you can see journeywithblackgirl.com.
Awesome. Thank you so
You're welcome.
much for sharing. I'm going to, let's see. I'm going to stop sharing. Did I stop sharing? So hard for me to tell. There we go. Stop. Okay. So, and we can go back in, if there's specific questions about some of the slides, we can go back into the slides.
Yes.
So, does anybody have any questions? Feel free to unmute. I see Ebony just unmuted.
I do have a question. Well, thank you
Stephanie.
for your presentation and sharing.
Thank you.
I'm also, I'm a visual artist from here in Oklahoma City. And I was just wondering, are any of the shows that you curate, are they annual or do you kind of just put a call out, whenever they come up?
So normally, every art show that I've ever curated has been its own. It's just been its own thing, and so I would love to create a space. And actually, Journey Black Girl will probably move into that space where I'll start having annual events that's just based on Journey of a Black Girl. But again, like every other themed show, it just kind of it's like I come up with this idea and I'll do an artist call, or I would personally invite different artists to be a part of the show. And so moving forward, I'm still I still play around with both. If I know I have like a set of artists and I'm like, I know their work is good and I follow you, I'm always on the hunt for looking for new artists. And so I usually let the artists do their thing. I trust their process if they're in agreement with the theme. Again, I'll just critique your work, go over your work, and if I feel like it fits, then I'll invite you out. But there's also times that depending on the venue or the space, how long it will be up, I would definitely do an artist call. Because in the beginning, I started off doing more pop-ups, and those are really intense and hard work because it's only pop-up for one night, and I want artists to have the maximum views from spectators. So I would do more artist calls for artists to see their work longer. So one of my first shows I did an artist call and I had artists from random places from California to Texas that will ship their work in. So a lot of times it just depends on the budget, having the work shipped in. And if it, unfortunately, if it doesn't sell, just being able to ship it back. But we speak abundance, so we want that work to sell.
Yeah.
Yeah, follow me. I would love to see your work.
Okay, I sure will.
Does anybody have any other questions?
Hey, Courtney.
Hi.
Hi, this is Scott. Thank you for being here today. This has really been amazing to see what you've been able to do. I'm really interested if you could just kind of describe for us your process from when you first had the idea to when you installed or hung or established your first part of the project. Can you just talk about the early part of the process from the
Beltline project itself?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, so when I first came on board, we did site visits on the different parts of the Beltline. So again, I was a part of the South Side Trail. And so Miranda, who is the lead project manager curator of the Beltline, we went and saw the spaces and just kind of got a view of the sites. And so when I saw the electrical house that we did the murals on, I was like, can I use that? They said, you sure can. And so I was able to just kind of have idea. I knew with the bridge, I wanted to have some type of fiber art hanging from that bridge. And so it wasn't until I went so that was like early September 2019. In October of 2019, I was able to help a group of Black women artists paint a mural in Brooklyn. And this is kind of where the idea of Journey Black Girl came from, because it was probably about a team of 5 different Black women sitting at this breakfast table, and we're just talking about our journeys and how similar it was in our creative process. And I said, that's it. That's gonna be my Beltline project, Journey of a Black Girl. So we were just like, I had all these ideas, and because even just Black hair itself is just a whole nother is a topic. I could have just did a whole exhibit on Black hair, but I wanted to talk about different phases. And so when we talked about the Black hair, the braiding came in, and I said, okay, what can I use? What materials can I use that I can braid that long, and not actually use real hair, but just something that was thick and that could be weatherproofed. And so the actual installation of it, again, I had to test it out, found the yarn, and just installing it. It took about 6 of my friends for us, because it was really heavy. Like, it fit in my car. We had to wrap it up and then throw it over. And so again, like I said, I used this like green, I want to say chicken wire, but it was like the fencing that you would put around like a garden. And I just double wrapped that, and then had chains, and then used zip ties to tie the hair down, the braids down. So Yeah, that was my first time doing like an installation like that. Again, I'm normally with murals and just, 2D. So to be able to fill and braid and create something that was 3D like that was amazing. And I still have them. Some of them, when it fell down, it was a dirt road, so some of the work was like, not salvageable. But I was able to wash some of the braids, and I was able to keep some of the braids. So next time I feel like if I do those braid installations, it needs to be somewhere inside. Just be interior space. I hope
It's so awesome that it was outside.
Yeah. And it looked really cool when like the wind was blowing and people would run underneath it. And it was really amazing. I wish it could have lasted longer, but now I know. So if I create it again, there'll be some other steps taken.
I had a question.
Yes.
So you said you primarily worked in two-dimensional art, including murals and public art. And so that belt project was the first time doing like a 3D installation for you. So when you applied for that, I just kind of want to know what was going through your head as someone that didn't have that experience. And then also once you got the project, what steps did you take to prepare yourself for doing stuff outdoors? Because I know it's a completely different ball game, and having to understand materials that will last and that sort of thing. So I just kind of want to hear your thoughts.
So because I came in as a curator, I wasn't certain what I was going to do at first. I just knew I had this roster of artists and I've had these team of curators that I worked with. So I was like, I finally have a budget to do something and I'm about to pay everybody. Like I wanted to be able to spread the wealth. So I'm like, I'm paying my artist friends that have helped me out throughout the time. And so I had ideas of having, the different musical and murals and having a fashion show. And so the fiber art didn't come till later. And so, I've seen other artists, I've had friends and artists that create work like that. So I had like a good, I had resources that I could ask questions. But again, it was all about just experimenting and just trial and error and seeing what works and what didn't work. So yeah, it's just a lot of research. And yeah, so public art, again, that was still the first time I did some installation that wasn't a mural. And so again, like it was just heavy research of what materials that could be used, what materials will not be offensive, because there was a lot of there was another artist that had put something on the belt line that was very controversial. And so knowing that going into it, I was just like, I don't want to do anything that's going to offend people, but I mean, you don't want to take away from your creativity, but you also want to be, you want to, what's the word I'm looking for? You want the work to be true to yourself, but you also want to know the area that the work's being put up at, that it's not going to cause like hurt in a sense, right? Because I think one of the artists had put up something that looked like a noose, and it's just, they had a whole like conversation about it and public, forums about it. And so just trying to be sensitive sometimes too. So you just kind of want to, all that plays in a factor. So just like the emotional part of it, the mental part of it. And then, when you go and look for your materials, what's going to last, it's going to be weatherproof. So yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I suspect Jennifer had a question, which is why I haven't jumped in. but if Jennifer's not going to unmute, and then I realized someone else just started talking at the same time. So.
Well, no, you're the only one I hear speaking.
Okay. Hi, Courtney. Thank you. I want to reiterate what everybody else has said, which is thank you for being here and thank you for talking to the group. No one in this group is probably going to be surprised by this question, but I am so curious how you are funding. Where is your funding coming from? How are you getting? I know that you're working in cities that have probably a larger economy of art than Oklahoma City or Oklahoma municipalities do, but like how are you funding these projects? Because it's impressive, and I look at it and think, are you independently wealthy, or do you have a benefactor who's just like, I love your ideas?
Not at all. And honestly, the funding in Atlanta is tricky because I stay outside of Fulton County, so that's where Atlanta is. Atlanta's located in Fulton County. So again, the Beltline, being the first curator in residence for the Beltline, that was the first time that I was given funded, like public funding to curate a space. So everything beforehand, outside of the Arts Exchange and the Sinclair Gallery, where I came in with just like a 3-month proposal to do 3 shows, and they had a budget for it because it was a nonprofit, so they had a budget to pay me, and so they see the work that I was able to create and bring the amount of people into those different those exhibitions, and so they kept me on for a year because it was in their budget to pay me. But prior to that, I've been curating since 2017, and when I said pop-ups, all those were out of pocket for me. I will find a venue, or I'll have relationships with places that have venues that like, yeah, I trust your vision. You can use a space to curate. And so in the beginning, I probably charge like a hanging fee for my artist calls. I'm like, okay, well, I have to be able to have the materials to hang the artwork, or I would charge like maybe a $5 or $10 ticket for guests to come see the work. But I had an incentive, like, oh, okay, well, you get a drink. And so I'll have like a bartender that made sangrias, and so you can get a drink ticket. So it was like funding that way just to get the bare minimum. I wasn't making a profit at all. It was just literally just taking care of the necessities to just kind of get the show up and running. Where I started to see a little bit of profit is when the art sold. And so when I had the confidence to have these lists of collectors and receive like a commission or a percentage off the sales, that's when I started to see a little bit of profit. So everything up between 2017 up into 2019 was literally just on my own merit. Like it was just something that was from my heart that I wanted to share. And again, like having these relationships with different artists, they're like, Courtney, yeah, we rock with you, or I want to show your work, or these are the same artists that I've came up with showing my work, and us submitting to different art shows and us growing together. So when I started to curate, I was just like, I want to show your work because I've seen your progress, and I've seen, how far you have come. So we're going to continue to grow together. So again, the Beltline was my public art curation was the first time that I received funding. And from that, I was able to pay probably like 10 to 12 people, just to have the artists that was able to come in and, just use local artists, like when it came to like printing and just miscellaneous stuff. But when I realized when I've had my art shows, I've always invited like different entertainments. If it's a DJ or if it was a caterer, you can come in, you can pay a vending fee, and then whatever money you make, that's what you make if you want to sell some tacos, whatever you want to do, just kind of keeping the economic thing flowing and within the circle. So, because I don't want to go by that I'm a starving artist. I don't think we should use that at all. So we have to be positive and not think of scarcity. We're going to be abundant in our work. And so again, so doing the public curatorial for the Beltline led to the reflection of change project. Again, that wasn't under the Beltline. It just happened to be on the Beltline. So they've seen the work that I did on the Beltline, and it's like, oh, okay, well, we have a fence. Can she curate that? And so learning how to negotiate and say, hey, this is what I'm able to do, and this is their budget. Yes, I can work with that. I can pay 7 artists out of this budget and pay myself. So it's so many hats that you wear. And so I'm learning a lot as an artist and as a curator, learning how to charge for your work, learning how to pay other artists, and make sure they're giving your W-2s and all the above. And so it's been a learning process. But yeah, so it's been a blessing to have people that recognize your work and say, hey, there's funding out here and we can help you. But you also have to do your due diligence when you're looking for other fundings, other projects that are willing to fund, and learning how to get those proposals in on time, and just making sure you have everything that's needed. There was this last project recently. I didn't post, but I curated a solo show for a photographer, and it was for Elevate Atlanta, which for the last 2 months, September to October, they had different pockets of throughout Atlanta where it was just all these pop-up art shows. And so our event was the first weekend. It was because I didn't live in Fulton County, I couldn't apply, but I had him apply. So I was able to help him receive funding. And so he was able to pay me because I was curating, but I helped him get funding so he can fund his own art show. And so that feels good.
Yeah. It's admirable. I can't say enough about the what you've accomplished in a relatively short period of time is really
Thank
amazing.
you. Thank you.
And then I'm going to stop talking after this, but I just had one thought while you were talking about the braids and the outside and the challenges, but that it's something that you could see happening again, especially knowing what you know now. It kind of, and please understand that where I'm coming from is a place of more and abundance, and not trying to diminish or belittle in any way, shape, or form. But it makes me think a little bit of Candy Chang's Before I Die project, in that I could see the potential for what you've created as a model that then other Black women on journeys could implement in their own communities with your blessing. And that's what Candy Chang did with her Before I Die project, which was, here is exactly how I did it. I want to see more of this. I can't do all of them. If you want to do it, here are the parameters. And I could see that just like, can you imagine a braid across America? Like the idea that this could be happening in multiple municipalities at the same time is very exciting to me. So I wanted to throw that out, and I will stop talking.
And please forgive me can you say the name again? You said Candy Chain?
Candy Chang, Chang.
Okay, I feel like I should know that name. If I see it, I probably recognize. I'm so bad with names, but
well, and that's not a recent project. Jennifer may know the exact date of it. I mean, it's early 2010, so it's not like it's something that happened last year or 2 years ago, but it's something that has happened a lot. Like, I've thought about doing it in Enid because it's such a beautiful thing to do, and I can genuinely see what you're doing being something that you're only one person, but if you had the desire, you could empower all these other people who could.
And that's why and listen, when I came up with the idea, I said, I can't do this by myself. That's why I created the workshops to have and do the art, the call. Like, I had, the women that were part of the art show already. And when I told them the project, I was like, yeah, I totally will come to that. And it was a great way to create team building. It was a great way to create sisterhood. And like I said, the last workshop where we had it at an actual salon, after we did the braiding, we all sat in the chairs, and I had, a guest moderator that asked questions. She was previously a hairstylist. And so we talked about our hair struggles. And one of the women, she always wore hair wraps because she wasn't comfortable because she had alopecia. And so it was like all these different like heartfelt stories, and you just wanting to accept her hair, like just wanting to say, I can color my hair. I can be professional with colored hair. Or even with the Crown Act of Black women just wanting to wear their hair natural. So there's all these topics that we can dive into with, or just like I said earlier, we can just talk about our hair, and there's so many things that can come from that. And just even being on social media, like my friends are always tagging me on different like photographer work because everyone's braiding their hair. And it's just like, you think about these ideas and you're like, well, I don't want to, these ideas come from somewhere, but you feel like you don't want to steal. But it's like, that's why it's Journey of a Black Girl, because we all have these experiences. And you think about just the braiding of our hair, and during the slave trade, like how the women would put like seeds in their hair so they can have something to eat where they travel. They can always have like grains of food in their hair, and just different patterns in the braids. And so it's so much deep stories that go along with these hairstyles. I can just even remember as a child growing up, like having my hair relaxed or wanting to have straight hair, because I went to a predominantly white school. And so I used to play in my friend Alicia's hair. I think her family was from Greece, and she had long hair, and I always would play in her hair and braid her hair. And I'm like, I want long hair, and I always want my hair to be long. And I always would get my hair, with a relaxer. And it wasn't until I left to go to school in Houston that I was just like, one of my friends from Detroit, she had like a short haircut, and I've never, seen a Black woman with a short haircut like that before. And she was so confident, so beautiful. And I was just like, and she's like, Courtney, think about it. How was your hair what was your hair texture like before you got a relaxer? And I was like, you know what? It was curly and it wasn't bad. It was cute. And so I was like, I'm going to grow my afro out. And when I grew my hair out, and I was like, I started to love the texture of my hair. And then I grew locks. You can see some of like the older photos, or when I painted the picture of myself, I had locks for like 14 years. And I was like, my hair was down to my waist. And I said, the hair that I always wanted to grow grew naturally out of my hair without any relaxer chemical or comparing myself to what beauty of what, you know, these magazines look like. Or if you Google a beautiful woman, you don't see me, you don't see a Black woman first. So we had to have that culture within our household and have these different magazines and just be proud of our hair. So, and now I'm just like, you know, I had my locks for 14 years. I was like, well, I want to get braids again. So I would like cut my hair off and now I have braids. I want to have these different hairstyles. And I think it's incredible that I can do all these crazy hairstyles. So yeah, I know I kind of just ran off on a tangent, but yeah, thank you for your comment.
I do have questions, but Jerica, are we coming to an end here? I don't want to push over your allotted time.
I was just about to unmute and say, Jennifer, you better jump in there.
Full of questions. Super excited by all the work that you've done, Courtney. I just wanted to talk about just briefly mention another artist that you might be interested in, who's Sonia Clark. For those of you who are in Tulsa, she had a show at 108 Contemporary. I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. I don't know if you got a chance to see it, on braids. So all of her work focuses on braiding as an identity.
Okay, cool. Sonia
But
Clark.
I also wanted to ask, so one of the things that I'm always interested in is convincing artists. I think most of them on this call have already taken that step, but there are lots of artists in Oklahoma that perhaps haven't taken that step up to public art. And I'm wondering if you have any advice. How did you take that first step? Was it murals? Were there opportunities to do murals and you were like, I can do that? Was it this opportunity to, after you'd already done a few murals, to submit to the Beltline project? Are there ways in which organizations can get artists to take that step up to working in public art? And because it's you need some funding and you need some, I mean, some people can just do it from their own sense of like ambition and stuff like that. But I was wondering if there's any kind of support that would help.
Yeah, so for me, I guess what I can say is like a lot of times I love like my artist community because I feel like I have mentors and friends that I can talk to. So how I started having the confidence to do my own murals, I would assist other muralists. Like, hey, if I knew an artist had a mural coming up, like, can I come watch? Can I come assist you? I'll come hand you the can. You want me to paint the background? What can I do? So I for the first couple of years since 2014, I was helping other artists that was already doing public art. So if there's someone that you follow who's already doing public art installations, see if you can assist them and learn that route to be on, you know, to be on site and see what it takes, right? Another thing is doing your research, knowing what things cost, having a budget for it, because that's important. Because when you start to apply for some of these proposals, you need to know how much money you're spending. You need to be able to pay yourself. You have to pay your taxes, and you have to have the materials, and you need to be fed. Like, so there's these different things that need, you know, transportation and travel, like all these things need to be added into that budget. And again, like, you know, I started off with murals, and so the mock-ups too. So you got to think about the time and effort that you're going to put into creating the mock-up for what it looks like. If you know, hey, I have this painting and I think this will be a great mural, you have to do that research to find that building owner, get approval, because sometimes there's a lot of small business owners that are like, hey, you can paint a mural on my building, but does the owner give you permission? You don't own the building, so you have to find the owner approval, right? And so if you're going through the city, if they're funding, if the city owns it, okay, and they're providing a budget for it, then obviously you don't need permission because they're giving you the space already. So again, it's just your research, knowing what your budget, how to budget the money that they give you because you want to be responsible for it. And again, finding someone that you can assist or that can help mentor you through the process.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, and I'm going to put Sonia's website in the chat there if people want to check it out. She's a great artist, and as I said,
Hello, Courtney.
Yes.
This is Mary.
Hi, Mary.
I'm sorry. I thought I was unmuted, but I must have been muted all of these opportunities that I tried to interject. But at the end of the time, let me just say I appreciate your positivity, your perseverance, and your passion. I'm probably quite a few years older, but we've traveled some of the same road. I remember about 8 or 9 years ago, I curated a program, and the title was "I Am More Than My Hair."
Nice.
And it was just phenomenal. And I found through it a breakthrough even for Caucasian women, because it came out in this presentation that brunettes don't always feel as comfortable not being blonde. And it dispelled some myths. A lot of the Caucasian women begin to open up about the things that they do with their hair that's not really made to be a type of anomaly. It's kind of a norm in society, but for African American women, it was some years ago, everything that we did was like an anomaly of strange art. And it would be no different from some of the things that our Caucasian sisters were doing. So the journey that you've been on, I feel not only has helped to free a lot of African American women and women of color, but it reaches across other barriers as well. And I can just in brief say you are just doing a phenomenal job based on what I've heard. My program is Color Me True. That's my organization name. And everything that I've been blessed to do, thank God, has been branded under heritage, history, and hope. So we bring in heritage, we bring in history, we bring in hope so that we can all learn and dialogue. And particularly with African American history, I think that we all grow stronger when we learn about the history of the contributions that African Americans have made, but moreover, to see the confident beauty now being not just emphasized, but socialized for African American women. It's amazing because, again, I'm a senior, but I'm looking at Caucasian men now being comfortable with dating African American women, proudly so. That was something that you did not see. But as you said, too often for many years, up until, just a few years ago, you did not have that exemplary media example of seeing African American women as beautiful. And so, nonetheless, I appreciate what you're doing and just pray that God will bless you to continue and enlarge your territory. And thank you so much for presenting today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your feedback, and it's a journey. The journey continues. Thank you so much. And now that you said your information was Color Me True.
Yes, Color Me True. I do have a mural in Tulsa, and just recently finished as a collaborative process, as you have said, with other artists. I thoroughly agree when you present the vision and it's worth the monetary means to support not only yourself, but the work itself and the artists that assist. It means it means a lot. And we just finished a mural inside of our school, Carver Middle School, with the emphasis on the history and heritage of George Washington Carver. So his history is depicted in art. But I'm sorry I was on mute, so I'm late interjecting. So I'm going to respect the time for Miss Jerica, who worked so hard for us all.
Yes, thank you. Give a round of applause to Jerica for putting this all together as well. Thank you so much.
Yes, yes.
So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we are all honored to have Mary Williams joining us today.
Thank you, Miss Mary.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay. Any last questions, last chance for anyone that hasn't jumped in yet? Not, we will go ahead and wrap it up. I don't see anyone unmuting. So I'm going to say thank you so much, Courtney, for sharing with us. It was so great to learn more about you, and I'm so grateful for your generosity and sharing so much with us and connecting with our artists. So
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And make sure y'all click the link for This Crown Belongs to Us. It's still on my Facebook page under Seabrook's Art. And so I'd love to hear y'all's views. And again, I'm just grateful. Thank you for the opportunity.
all right. So with that, we will close it out. See you all in 2 months.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
And
Y'all
happy
have a blessed one.
Thanksgiving to everyone.
Yes, same to you. Y'all have a blessed day.
Take care.